Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristen West, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to What Women Want Talk Radio. Thank you for joining us for our show tonight, Achieving That Necessary Impact. I'm broadcasting from New York, and my co-host, Kristen West, is in our beautiful studio at LA Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Kristen. So good to talk to you. What Women Want Talk Radio has reached way over 1 million downloads. We're so proud of that fact since we first hit the airways. And between latalkradio.com's archives, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and all of our social media, of course, you can find us everywhere. So listen to those replays. And we're taking sponsors for our next show, for the next few months. So email us for a complete deck through our website, whatwomenwantradio.com. Now, achieving that necessary impact, that could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But when I look at our guests' backgrounds, it means changing the world in a meaningful, global way and leveraging that impact to inspire others. Right, Kristen?
Yes. And I think one of the most important things that we have to sort of figure out is how do we measure impact? More than anything else. That's what I'm curious about is how do we measure it? How do we
measure it? How do we define it? And how do we take it to a level where we're influencing others, right?
Exactly. Because I think it means different things to different people.
Yes, it certainly does. And to Tiffany Pham and Bonnie Daneker, it does mean different things also. And we're going to find out their stories and what's behind the scenes in their life in just a few minutes. My background originally comes from high fashion modeling with Ford, New York. And after that, I was a magazine editor and then author with St. Martin's Press, which eventually led me to hosting and reporting regularly for Better TV, City Buzz, and all the TV networks around the country, both regional and national. I'm currently a regular contributor on NBC and Fox, and I'm also currently hosting the show Behind the Gates New York, a luxury real estate show airing on AWE, and I'm the mom of twin teenage girls and an entrepreneur. I founded the company What Women Want Networking almost 8 years ago, and I'm really excited because 4 weeks from today, we're hosting our second National Women's Conference in Atlanta, October 19th through the 21st at the Hyatt Regency. And our theme is Go Big, because we're not going home. That was my twist on the go big or go home saying. And Kristen's going to be joining us. Kristen, let's tell everyone a little bit about yourself. You're an actress, producer, screenwriter, TV and radio show host, and everything kind of girl.
All sorts of stuff. Yes, yeah. And I am coming to the conference, and I'm looking forward to it. What's going on this week with me is that the Fantastic Horror Film Festival Awards nominations are out, and the fan voting is out. And I just got nominated for Best Supporting Actress in a Short Film for the film The Spirit Room. Remember how I've been saying how well The Spirit Room has been doing? They actually got 6 nominations at this film festival.
Wow.
So you can actually vote for me and The Spirit Room. And the link to do that, I would love it if people would vote. And you don't have to... anyone can vote. Is my pinned tweet on my Twitter profile at the Kristen West, and I know we also have it up on the What Women Want page as well. But this is a really great film that's also topical, dealing with issues. It's a horror film, but it is a horror film. It's a supernatural horror, but it also deals with racism and sexism and misogyny as well. And I think it's a great film. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. It's objectively a good film, and I would appreciate everybody's support. And I found out yesterday that my good friend, director James Balsamo, I was in his feature film, The Lich. I played his crazy ex-wife in that film. That movie is now up for sale. You can pre-order it on Turner Classic Movies. So it's really fun when you see a movie that you've been in on the Turner Classic Movie site.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a fun film. It was a fun horror comedy. And
like you played a crazy ex-wife?
I played a crazy ex-wife.
I know a few of those.
God bless them all. They add color to our life. And and we're also really close to getting that second season of Horror Talk with Kristen West edited, and our first guest for the new season is the one and only Dee Wallace, the mom from E.T. She was also in Cujo. She was also in The Hills Have Eyes. And we have we have a really interesting interview, not just about her work in horror, but also about her spirituality, which is an important part of her life as well. So I can't wait to get that up and ready to view for everyone. So I've been very busy, but I love what I do, so it's not work.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm so honored that you're coming to the conference and getting on stage with me again. Actually, everybody listening doesn't know that we met in person on stage at the conference last year. So that was exciting. So if you want to meet me or Kristen West, or how about our opening keynote, CEO of Chicken Soup for the Soul, Amy Newmark. She's going to be kicking off the weekend on Friday, October 19th. You want to join us there. We're already filling the room, and we have up to right now, we have 8 VIP spots left out of 60. And we're filling the rest of the room very quickly with incredible women. It's where personal meets professional development, where mindset meets business. So go to whatwomenwantconf.com and use the code GOBIGDiscount for $100 off the already low price of $260 for 3 days, guys, of learning, fun, new friendships. Kristen, can you believe it's 4 weeks from today? Just a bundle of nerves and excitement.
I know. I was starting to kind of work out the logistics of my trip, and I'm like, where's the time going? But, time flies when you're having a blast.
It's crazy. And I want to just mention, David Baer is one of the keynotes. He's, Inc. magazine calls him a leading expert on mindset. And Cecilia Lenk is closing the conference with the whole full circle of personal meets professional development. She has over 200,000 angel investors in her network, so you'll want to meet her. Leslie Jane Seymour is coming, CEO of Peach. Tickets are going fast, I'm excited to say. So grab your spot. Use Go Big Discount for all of our listeners out there for $100 off before October 1 for the next 10 days or so before we sell out. So because then it's too late. I'm excited to say that traditionally the word mogul has been attributed to men, but Tiffany Pham, our guest tonight, has redefined it. Tiffany writes the new rules of success for following your passions and forging your own path in an age of disruption in her book, You Are a Mogul, just released a week and a half ago, reaching millions of women per week and praised by Sheryl Sandberg as the #1 millennial platform. Mogul enables women to connect, share information, and access knowledge on a global level, putting its motto into play every single day. One stage, millions of voices. Now, Tiffany Pham is the founder and CEO of Mogul, an award-winning worldwide platform enabling women to connect, share information, and access knowledge from each other. A coder, she developed the first version of Mogul, which now reaches 18 million women per week from over 196 countries and 30,470 cities worldwide. Headquartered in New York City with offices around the U.S. and Europe, Mogul was named one of the 100 most exciting startups by Business Insider, best website for finding top talent by Inc. magazine, top website for marketing your company online by Forbes, and has been honored by the U.S. House of Representatives, City of Fort Worth, City of New York, and the City of Paris. Tiffany was named one of Forbes 30 Under 30 in Media, Business Insider, 30 Most Important Women Under 30 in Technology, Elle Magazine, 30 Women Under 30 Who Are Changing the World. You get the point. This list goes on and on for Tiffany Pham. It's amazing. She also speaks on a quarterly basis at the United Nations to present gender policy recommendations. Our listeners love that. Previously Director of Business Development at CBS, Tiffany handled strategic initiatives and partnerships for more than 150 digital properties for CBS TV stations and radio stations across 29 U.S. markets. For her contributions, she received the 2013 CBS Digital Media All-Star Award. Is there nothing this girl doesn't do? She has also worked with HBO, Credit Suisse, and Goldman Sachs. Now, Tiffany has also co-produced the hit feature film Girlfriend and a myriad of other award-winning films. She additionally served as head of marketing for the Beijing International Screenwriting Competition launched with the Beijing government. Hailed by James Cameron, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Governor Deval Patrick as a new model of cross-cultural collaboration between China and the U.S., Tiffany led the initiative to be featured in over 400 U.S. and Chinese media outlets, including the New York Times, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Beijing TV, Bloomberg, and Yahoo. I'm exhausted now. Welcome to the show, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be on.
Oh my gosh, you're so impressive. I'm proud to be a mogul influencer. And funny enough, Kristen, my co host, is the one that nominated me for that years ago. And she's from Texas. That was your first stop from a foreign upbringing. There's so many things I want to ask you. Let's start with your upbringing. What age did you come to the States?
So I actually settled into Plano, Texas at age 10. Didn't know how to speak English, and definitely it was a culture shock for me since, as you may know, I actually grew up in Paris, France initially.
Yeah, and that surprises me that the extent of your success at such a young age, and you didn't speak English at the age of 10. That is amazing. It's so inspiring.
Thank you so much. Definitely was a challenge, I think, but one that I cherish looking back, because when I moved here, I ended up trying to learn English by watching TV shows like Friends and I Love Lucy, and of course listening to the radio. And later on, probably most important of all to me nowadays, I was listening to audio tapes as well by Dale Carnegie, who famously wrote, of course, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And so I would not only listen and get these incredible lessons on English and how to speak it, but also at the same time learn how to be stress-free and a calm leader, which is what many within our organization would know me as nowadays.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't have gone so far so fast if you weren't calm, that's for sure. And I find it also interesting that your grandmother was a huge influencer in the career path that you chose.
Definitely. She was an incredible role model to me. She was such an amazing maverick of her time, so bold and daring within her area of the world, within Asia, within Vietnam, was, again, an incredible woman who ran businesses across industries, one of the first women to drive a car in Vietnam. So as you can imagine, growing up with such an amazing influence and probably an anomaly of her time as well, I wanted to be just like her. I wanted to be bold and daring and doing things that would help impact others around me, others in need. But not only that, but she was an incredible woman who was beloved by her community, most importantly. She was kind and generous and warm, and for that she was equally known. And so I'm lucky that she raised my father, who ended up knowing that as the example, because then he tried to everything to raise me in this way as well.
That's amazing, Tiffany. And it's amazing to hear your story and kind of map, in our minds your progress, and how it's an intergenerational effort as well, how we learn from our parents and our grandparents, especially our mothers and our grandmothers, and how we have to model the behaviors that we want to see in the world. And I wanted to ask you, how do you measure impactfulness for yourself? What do you consider impact to be?
For me, it's ultimately to be fulfilling the mission that I set out since I was 14 years old. Ultimately wanting to provide impact in 3 different ways: providing information access, providing economic opportunity, and providing educational resources. So in those 3 areas, I suppose I measure impact in terms of how many people we've been able to touch in this way. So, for example, Mogul, just to explain our structure, is one, again, that enables women all around the world to come together and ultimately connect, converse, and access knowledge worldwide from each other. And the organization already on its own, as a social enterprise, reaches millions of women each week across our various channels. Then, for every dollar Mogul earns, we provide free educational resources to women in need, so that ultimately we can create impact in this way, not only, again, information access, but then through educational resources. Finally, since we provide these educational resources for every dollar earned, we must, in fact, have a profitable business model in order to drive that kind of social impact model. And so the ways in which we monetize currently and have that profit model is by licensing technology to companies to use our technology to attract and retain and advance diverse talent. In other words, we provide technology to over 150 different Fortune 500 companies, for example, that then post jobs and internships for women to then apply to. And in this way, we're able to provide economic opportunity. So all in all, in every aspect, how many people we touch, how many we provide opportunities and, again, information and education to, is how we measure the impact.
What fascinates me, I mean, all of that is fascinating, and I'm a regular user of Mogul, and I know Judy is too. And the quality of companies and positions that you're able to attract to the platform are just astoundingly good. Every woman who's looking for a job, whether they're a millennial or not, should be looking on Mogul. I have to ask you, you said that you had these principles down when you were 14 years old, just 4 years after you started learning English. What was going on with you when you were an early teenager? Most people don't have a life mission exactly at 14 years old.
I definitely was in a situation that led me there. What happened was that I ended up moving to Plano, Texas, as mentioned, and ultimately find myself struggling to learn. I didn't fit in school really well. Obviously had braces, a bowl cut, glasses. Was the ultimate nerd. But what I did have going was that ultimately I was lucky to have role models. My grandmother, of course, had mentioned a maverick of her time. I wanted to be like her. But it wasn't until later on that it truly struck me. Her influence. She passed away one day when I was 14 years old. And that day, I was so torn up that my role model in life had now gone that I ended up making a promise to myself and to her and to my family aloud, as I remember just sitting in my room and crying, that I would do everything I could to follow in her footsteps. And I was going to dedicate my life towards the same goals and missions she had had forever after. I was going to dedicate every waking moment working towards this goal and mission too, no matter how hard or challenging. So it was that incident that actually altered the course of my life.
And that was your necessary impact. You basically made a promise to yourself that you were going to impact the world in that way.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes the hardest thing in going after that, whatever path you're meant for, is recognizing it. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. I feel like at first I made that promise, but the steps before me were definitely not all laid out. I definitely had to still think it through and work through a lot of experiments and different
and emotion, right?
To get there. Absolutely. Different emotions. So actually, to be honest, at age 14, I started mocking up the idea for Mogul already. I remember still to this
You
day.
did not.
Absolutely. Just drafting it out, mocking it up, creating what is ultimately still the look of Mogul today.
Wait, hold on. Can I go get my twin 14-year-olds to hear that?
Yeah, Judy, go get the twins. Was Facebook even...
Hold on 1 second.
Tiffany, was Facebook even a thing at that point? Because, was Facebook even there yet? Because did we have that scale of social media or Reddit or anything like that at that time?
I believe, actually, it was probably about 6 years prior to Facebook starting.
Jeez.
So I remember sketching it out then.
That's
Visionary.
Amazing. Now, Tiffany, you taught yourself to code? Do I remember hearing that about you, that you actually taught yourself to code?
Yes, definitely. So what happened was that ultimately, when I made that promise, I went about it in every way possible. I remember, even though I'd never seen college, never even had the funds to attend college, I remember seeing it on Gilmore Girls and thinking, okay, at least Rory goes off to run the school newspaper, just like my grandmother. Maybe I should go there too. So without even ever visiting the college, I remember applying there. I went there. By chance, I got in and got in on scholarships. So, and then, like Rory, ended up leading the school newspaper, and like my grandmother. Next, I ended up watching this movie, which I'm sure you've seen as well, called Legally Blonde. And there she goes off to Harvard. And again, I didn't have the funds to go to Harvard either, but I saw it in this movie. And I thought to myself, if she goes there, I would love to go there too. So I applied and luckily got in again on scholarship.
Okay,
and
Tiffany.
then subsequently,
Tiffany, what movie are you watching now so we can predict your future, okay? I need to know.
Exactly. Now you see the influence on me, and you know, obviously millions of people always affected by pop culture and media and movies, and that's how I could see for myself how important media could be for learning and education. So fast forward years later, I took on every job possible in order to fulfill this promise to my grandmother, working at CBS and HBO and BBC, taking on side jobs at nights, which I'm happy to go through as well, all of which then led me to one day start to hear from young women around the world who would ask me how I got these jobs as they would read about them online and in different magazines. And I would tell them all my advice in order to get these jobs as well. And they would tell me that my advice had changed their life. And that's when I came up truly with the nuanced idea and for Mogul, every detail of it, what it could do for women around the world to help them with all these real challenges they're facing, broad advice they needed amongst each other. Millions of us could provide advice and insights amongst each other and become that much better and stronger together. So that's when I taught myself how to code.
That's amazing. So, you know, coding, like the entertainment industry, is still kind of a male-dominated space. Was that hard for you, being a young woman? Were you taken seriously as a coder when you first started coding, or did you find that you had to sort of get over some gender issues there?
I was so lucky in that my brother was an incredible technology leader in New York. And I was lucky that no matter how much I would actually put myself down, he was the one who was so supportive and encouraging. And I'll explain that further. So basically, at the very beginning, I knew, again, not a bit about how to code, but what he was really incredible for was at least pointing me to the right resources. So he actually told me to download a PDF called Ruby on Rails tutorial by Michael Hartle. And so I downloaded that, and it was 10 chapters, and it basically taught you how to build a basic website through Ruby on Rails. But the first chapter was on how to download software alone. And believe it or not, it took me a full month to get through that chapter.
Wow.
And I was so challenged by that chapter. I was embarrassed, in fact, that 3 weeks in, I still had not finished. And when I finally did get through it, that first chapter on software downloading, and then I remember telling my brother, wow, I can't believe it took me a full month. You know, it's an embarrassment. My brother said, don't ever put yourself down because of that. You know how great of an accomplishment that is? That is, in fact, the biggest and first step of becoming a coder. In fact, nowadays, I kind of liken it myself, and I realize he was right. I liken it to the Karate Kid, you know, the wax on, wax off exercise that Miyagi taught the Karate Kid. Totally exactly the same case here. You need to know that discipline. You need to figure out how to download that software in order to start your path on becoming an engineer. So got through chapter 1, super hard, but you know what? The next 9 chapters, so much fun learning how to code and building something with my own hands took me just a matter of 2 weeks to get through the rest.
Wow. You know, sometimes it's that first step that's the hardest, isn't it, Judy?
Yeah, we kind of always come back around to that one, don't we?
Yeah. So how has Mogul impacted your life, founding this website that so many women and even men use? How has that impacted your life and impacted you personally?
I mean, it's been such an incredible journey getting to build a movement, getting to help shape the world and shape women's lives through our technology, you know, helping women be able to share their voices and ideas all around the world, reach millions more, and ultimately accelerate the rate at which women's voices are overtaking op-eds and boards. Right now, we represent just 10 to 15% of op-eds and boards. Mm-hmm. So I'm delighted that through our technology, we can hopefully accelerate this rate forever after. Right now, women just represent 10 to 20% of top leadership positions. I'm delighted that hopefully through all of our partnerships globally with companies, we can also impact this rate at which women are going to reach parity with men in top leadership positions, which right now is 2085. So I very much aim with our technology to drive that downward. And then finally, I'm also honored always, every single day, to have every task that we work on contribute towards global good, that every dollar we earn ultimately is invested back towards global good as we provide free educational resources to women in need through our partnerships with the United Nations and more. So on a personal level, to answer your question, building Mogul has been the happiest phase of my life. It has, out of everything I've done, Mogul was my lifetime journey, my lifetime accomplishment, and I hope to continue for many years more.
Well, you're certainly making an impact, too, with your new book, You Are a Mogul. There's been some great people praising this book, including supermodel Emmy, Susan Lucci, one of our favorite people ever, Judy, Alexandra Wilkes-Wilson, the founder of Guilt Group and Glam Squad, loves your book, too. Tiffany, can you tell us more about your book? It just came out, didn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So it just came out a few days ago, and just so excited that the book has seemingly been so helpful to so many incredible women around the world. I remember just speaking with another young woman recently, just yesterday, who was telling me that she read my book and then she was getting on a plane the next day and planned to bring my book with her to read it a second time because it was so inspirational and empowering for her. I just spoke to another woman as well, who actually was actually a TV host, a show host, and with a male anchor. And she was in the middle of telling him when I got on that she had highlighted every page of the book. She had earmarked every page. She even photocopied one specific page to hang in her office, which was the one page about how to ask for a raise successfully, which I've employed time and again. So just so excited that people actually found this book, which is actually my personal life story and career story and how we built Mogul, that ultimately broken down into the major lessons that I learned along the way, that we learned along the way, and the mistakes I made, most importantly of all, because I definitely didn't want to just share the glory. I wanted to share all the big mistakes so that then people could avoid them thereafter and learn from all of my mistakes. I'm delighted that in the end it pierced through, that all those lessons were very apparent and can then be applied to everyone's life today to become moguls themselves.
Well, I love this, and it's so exciting that so many women are being touched by this book. And how do we find the book? Is it available on Amazon? Is it available at bookstores? How do we get a hold of it?
Definitely is available in Amazon, in Barnes & Noble, and on barnesandnobles.com, and across all local independent bookstores as well.
And I just want to put in the title again. You Are a Mogul, How to Do the Impossible, Do It Yourself, and Do It Now.
Definitely. It's available across all local bookstores as well, which is important to me since I spent my childhood there every single weekend reading and just sitting on the ground and reading books, and to know that it's now going to help other young girls who are sitting down and reading books too is a huge honor for me.
Well, we're honored to have you, Tiffany. Of course, you go to onmogul.com if you want to be on the website and see the tremendous resource that the website is for women of all ages across
and
all.
Post on there. You'll get some great feedback.
Yeah, post on there. Judy and I contribute regularly to that. And Tiffany, how do we keep up with you as well and what you're doing besides connecting on Mogul?
Definitely. Feel free to reach out in every way possible. I am on Mogul, on mogul.com/Tiffany-Pham. I'm at Tiff T Pham, TIFFTP.
Tiffany?
Did we lose her?
Facebook.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there she is.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Tiffany. I think we lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. So I'm available at Tiff T Pham, TIFFTPHAM, across all social media, whether it be Instagram, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, and Facebook. But most importantly of all, feel free to reach out over email and connect as well. Excited to hear from everyone today.
Well, it was an honor and privilege to speak with you, Tiffany. Judy and I both love On Mogul so much, and it was an honor to speak to you with our listeners tonight. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Love you both, and so excited we got to connect, and excited about the next time we'll be able to speak again.
Thank you, Tiffany. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
It's always exciting to hear the impactful stories of women like Tiffany, and Bonnie Daneker also has some impact and insight to share. She is a consultant and owner at Right Along With You, WRITE, Right Along With You. She is the former CEO of Right Advisors and has been working in publishing and advertising writers for more than a decade. Now, if you're a would-be author, you can rely on her seasoned writing professionals to ease you towards the destination of a finished manuscript. And you're not alone when Bonnie writes along with you with Right Along With You. Bonnie Daneker holds an MBA from Emory University and a BA in journalism from The Ohio State University. She is president-elect of the National Association of Women Business Owners, the Atlanta chapter, and serves on the board of the Green Chamber of the South. She is the author of several books, including her latest, It's In There, the innovation, dedication, and determination behind the birth of Prego spaghetti sauce. The $30 billion marquee product from Campbell's Soup can be found in kitchens worldwide, and foodies and biography lovers alike will love It's In There. The book is part memoir and part product history, highlighting the many professionals who contributed to the famous sauce. And all proceeds go to fund the food technology scholarships available at Ohio State University. And it's available on Amazon.com right now and ohiostatepress.org. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled to have you, and I have to get this out right away, because I read this and I was so fascinated when Judy told me about you. What is the most surprising thing about spaghetti sauce that you learned writing this book?
Oh, you wouldn't believe the things I learned writing this book. But actually, the most surprising thing was the number of tomato hybrids that they looked at and tested when they were developing the recipe for this particular sauce. So this particular sauce has a tomato called C148 in it, and it stands for Campbell's 148. It's actually the 148th version of the tomato that they had been breeding for different tomato products along the way. So one of the things that Campbell's Soup Company is known for is owning its supply chain, and they started out in the early 1800s and into the 1900s, and obviously into today, really safeguarding their agricultural process. So they took on the tomato sciences and breeding to get that perfect mix of tartness and sweetness for that tomato. And really, as we look at food today, a lot of people are very interested in the farm-to-table movement and what we're putting in our mouth and what the packaging is and the processing is that affects what we eat. And so Campbell's Soup Company and, of course, the product developers, such as my co-author, they take it to heart about the seriousness of the authenticity of the products that create these wonderful foods that we eat from the grocery store.
Okay.
And, of course, restaurants and so forth. Yeah.
I have to ask Judy something really quick. And I'll ask you this too, Bonnie.
Every week.
Have you ever done anything or tried anything 148 times before you got it right?
I thought you were going to ask me how many times I use Prego sauce with my kids. Pretty much every week.
Pretty much every week. No, but I mean, can you imagine?
Thank you.
Every week. I put meatballs in it. I have it plain. I saute some turkey meat and throw it in there. I mean, we're constantly using the Prego.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. You know, it's interesting. I'll answer that question too. And actually, the only thing I've done 148 times is continue to write. And I'm a writer first, and I'm a guide for writers, and I'm, of course, a business owner and an entrepreneur. But I really admire the scientists and the chefs and all of the people that were involved in this process. And, you know, the owner of the company was very diligent about the purity of his food. And when we talked about what kind of ingredients are in Prego and what kind of people are involved in the process, I have to say the second most surprising thing was how ethically clean and full of integrity that company is, the people that work there are, and the products that they create. So I'm glad to hear that you're using them, and I'm very much a Pro Campbell's person myself. I've got a cabinet that has Prego in it right now. So.
Well, I've definitely tried Prego 148 times over the years. I mean,
yes.
that's probably in that, 2 years, I would have knocked that number out. So there you go, Kristen.
There you go. Well, there's another piece of that, too. So the actual impetus for writing this book, even though my co-author, Bill, has wanted to write this book for some time, but there was a TED Talk given by Malcolm Gladwell, who everybody knows, and he actually gave the honor of the credit to another person for developing Prego spaghetti sauce. And it, in fact, was not Bill Hildebolt, who is my co-author, but he named a food psychologist who actually was involved in some of the flavor extensions later on. So the product was launched, and then Howard Moskowitz was involved later. But what happened was Bill was so upset that the people who were actually involved in those 148 attempts to make the right tomato and the 200 different renditions of the sauces that were tasted every single day at their 8 a.m. product testings, they were not given the true credit on who created that sauce. So Bill sat down to write this book and hired me and my company, and I was so involved with the product, being from Ohio with Bill, going to Ohio State University in undergrad, and then, of course, having relatives in New Jersey, where Campbell's is headquartered. And I agreed to co-author the book because it had such personal meaning to me. And, of course, as I was researching, the levels of integrity with that were just very appealing. But, we definitely want to get the word out that there are just wonderful people involved in the project, and several of those are highlighted within the book. So it's a really fun read. You get to read about Onion Mary, who is known for her amazing abilities to chop quickly. She was the highest paid woman in the plant. And you get to read about, of course, the chef, and you get to read about the business executives that supported the program and the advertising executives that came up with the name and the way to position it in the market, and some of the focus group attendees and things like that. So there's a huge story behind, this little jar on the shelf. And I hope that we captured it, and I hope that it's an enjoyable read. And of course, it's a wonderful cause benefiting all the scholarships for food technology at The Ohio State University.
It sounds like an amazing book, and of course, anyone who loves pasta sauce is going to have to read it, or tomatoes for that matter. So I wanted to ask.
Yes, actually.
I wanted to ask you, Bonnie, how do you define impact? What does impact mean to you? I asked Tiffany that question. I'd love to know what you feel impact is.
I've thought about this a lot. My husband and I celebrated a big birthday with me last year, and it's really important for me to continue to think about my legacy and what kind of impact I'm making, in my nuclear family and my community, and regionally, nationally, and worldwide. And actually, there are 3 ways that I look at measuring impact. I feel that my mantra, my reason for being on the earth, is to inform and to extend knowledge and provide opportunities to learn and to share experience. So I look at the impact on how I inform people and how I support people from a financial or managerial perspective, and how I share. So how I can connect people to different networks and different experiences. And actually, I've started to take a look at this from a quantitative perspective as much as possible, like really trying to think about how many connections can I make today for someone who needs it, or how many causes can I, write a check to, or donate my time to, or suggest they contact someone else who can do either of those things. And so I've been fortunate to build several businesses, write several books, but most importantly, I feel like my impact is helping people achieve their dreams in publishing and helping entrepreneurs achieve their dreams of business ownership and helping established business women achieve their dreams of maintenance or growth. So really, those are the ways that I look at impact. And of course, there is a quantitative piece, like I said, but the qualitative one about, just feeling good and knowing you helped someone is even stronger for me.
I'm glad you brought up your work with helping authors, because I don't know one author, whether they're a poet or they're a screenwriter or they're a blogger or they're a print journalist. Every writer I've met of all stripes, one thing that they yearn to do is to make an impact. And I wanted to know, because you're a writer yourself and you coach writers, I wanted to know what your top tip would be for writers who to create impact. What should a writer, because they all have that yearning. Every single writer I've ever met. How does a writer best create impact in their chosen medium?
Well, I have to give you a little background before I give you the tip. And the background is that every single client that I have ever worked with, and actually I think every single prospect that I've ever talked to, I've had this small conversation with, which it was probably a minute or two in length, but it's hugely impactful. And that is, what you want to write, but do you know what your writers or your viewers or your listeners want to hear, need to hear? Will absolutely sacrifice that cup of coffee, that trip to the donut shop, that lipstick, whatever they were going to buy, instead to buy your work. Usually they respond to me. I'm responded by saying, I haven't really thought of that. I just had this idea that I have this expertise and I have this experience and I want to get it out. I want to share it with the world. Well, that's great, and that is part of it. But a larger part is, what are you giving to them? What do they need, and how are you meeting their needs? So the top tip that I would share is, before you present anything to the world, anything, do your research. Think about what the world is like right now, whatever your genre is, whatever your media is, or your medium is. Take a look at what's there and what is needed, and fill that space about what is needed. Use your talent to give the people who will be buying your product what they really want and what they really need.
I can imagine it would be hard to separate someone's passion from what exactly they want to write about, right?
Yes, and actually that's where a lot of the editing takes place. And, editors are probably one of the most hated professions in the world, next to dentists. But it's painful, right? Just like extraction of teeth, extraction of words, extraction of thoughts and ideas. And
I remember my book being edited, and they were like, what are you trying to say? Where are you trying to say this? Are you trying to say that? And I'm like, just say it.
I know. And don't cut that beautiful sentence because I worked 3 days on that sentence, right? Or that dialogue. It sounds so authentic to me. Don't edit it. Well, that's not really your choice at the time. When you have prepared the work, after you have done your analysis about what needs to be out there, what can be out there, what should be out there, to find an editor that you know and trust is very important, because that editor will question you and your approach to how you're presenting your work and your talent and your messages to the world. So if you trust the editor, you will trust their recommendations for edits. And if your editor is worth their salt, they will say, these are recommendations, but it is your work. You make the final decision on what is cut, what is changed, what is kept. So, I really recommend that everyone who works with an editor go in there with an open mind. Don't remember your third grade teacher who marked up your paper with a red pen. Go in there with a person, and thinking about that person as a jeweler with a polishing cloth that's making your gemstone really shine.
Oh, I love that visual.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Kristen, it sounds like it takes a lot of focus to create that necessary impact that we all want to have on the world, right? I mean, it just takes a lot of laser focusing and sometimes passion and creativity, they're a lot, but sometimes they're just not enough.
And I love what Bonnie said, because we all exist in a sort of a marketplace ecosystem, whether we like it or not. And sometimes we are more impactful when we hit people in the head with our ideas, and sometimes we're more impactful when we're aiming for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of need to know where you're aiming to when you're writing. I have found that true when I'm just doing little blogs. I call them little, of course, but little blogs, and I find that true when I'm screenwriting as well, and I'm helping screenwriters in developing scripts. It's the same thing. Where are you trying to hit the reader? Are you trying to hit them in the head, or are you trying to hit them in the heart? Where are you trying to make that impact? And I think I don't know if this is in your experience, Bonnie. I'd be curious to know. I think a lot of people limit themselves because they've had that bad experience with their third grade editor with the red pens, and they have injuries in writing, and they don't think they have the talent or the time or the discipline even to write a book, because writing is sort of a lonely art at times unless you have help from lovely people like you. How important, though, but it can be serious, and I Judy, I think you could speak to this as well. It's a serious part of building some people's brands, the getting that book out there and getting published. I know Amy Lyle talked about that. You've written
almost every brand I can think of.
Yeah, there's a book. How important is writing to building a brand for you, Bonnie, and for the writers you work with?
Well, I think it's about 80% of your brand. And I say that thinking that when we develop content for a book, we have to answer the same questions that every good marketeer asks about: what are your goals? What are you trying to present? Who are you? Who is your reader? Who is going to buy this work? Who is your viewer? How do you want people to talk about your work? How are you going to inspire them to be evangelists and disciples for you and your work? How do you want to compare against those other people in your genre or outside of your genre? How are you going to inspire people to sell your book or show your movie? So, these are questions that are part of your brand that need to be reflected in the content that you create. And if you do your work creating the content that goes into your book, you will have more than enough content, and you can extrapolate that content into all of your other marketing materials. So we say start with a very, very wide pool and narrow it down to present in your book. And then you'll have all that extra content that you can use for what we call derivative works, which include things like blogs and videos and webinars and so forth, where you're still on point with your brand, but your revenue streams are increased, and you're building the opportunity to see people in a different way and to get your message out a different way to different audiences. So it's the same message, but a different way.
I love it. And Bonnie, we're running out of time. And before we end, I wanted to ask you about an event that you're having this weekend that you're speaking at.
Thank you very much. So the event is called, yes, and it's right along with this topic for the radio show. So it's, again, thank you for having me. But it's called Find Your Fierce and Leave Your Legacy. And it's outside of Atlanta, Georgia. It's in Peachtree City, and you can get tickets online. There are still a few left. But we have 6 panelists, and we have 2 keynote speakers, and you can see the rundown because we're running out of time. I won't go through that. But it's a really wonderful introduction to help people find their legacy, find their fierce and leave their legacy, just as we're talking about today, that big impact that we all want to have.
I was going to say, finding your fears sounds really just what you were talking about, really pulling out the true story and bringing it out. And you said it so well, and I imagine that you can put it on paper even better. So that's fantastic. And we have a minute left. So just tell me a little bit about the other speakers and how you all came together.
Oh, absolutely.
About 30 seconds.
Yes. So these are women who have accomplished over diversity to reach their goals in either A, medicine, or B, the world of business. So we have a full lineup, And we start with Rachel Smart, who is a naturopathic physician, and she goes through and talks about physical adversity. And then we have 2 other keynote speakers, and then we're talking to the panelists on what they did to become the first in their areas. So it could be, overcoming their backgrounds or their job situations, or in one case it was domestic abuse. So there's really something for everyone.
Sounds like a fantastic event. And where do they go to get tickets?
They go to findyourfierceleaveyourlegacy.com.
I love it. And congratulations on It's In There. Again, you can find it on Amazon.com. And Bonnie, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Congratulations on all you're doing. And everyone else who's listening, join us next week for another great show. Remember, subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't miss one show. Go to whatwomenwantradio.com for more information, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristen West, only on LA Talk Radio.